Okay, this video will walk you through how to set up and run a MoRPHED simulation. So, let's go to the releases page here first. We first need to download and extract this sample data for this tutorial. So we're going to go to this releases page here. Just put up a new release about 10 minutes ago. We've got this tutorial data.zip folder. Let's save that in my downloads. And let's show it in our folder. And we want to extract the files. And I'm going to put these on my C drive in a folder I've made for this tutorial. So I've made this little test folder for our tutorial. We'll extract those files here. Okay, now we can see I've got this tutorial data. I have this DEM and this hydro, a text file and a TIFF file. Let's open up this text file real quick so you can see what it looks like. This is the input file for MoRPHED. So each line represents an event we want to model. This event, the date is November 15th, 2003 at 9:45 a.m. It's a 20 cubic meter per second discharge. The water surface elevation of the downstream boundary is 7.73 meters below the maximum elevation of the DEM, and we have 1.0, which means we're going to import as much sediment as exported. So that's a basic look through the input file there. This is just a regular DEM. So we can get rid of this. Now, I'm actually going to run this installer real quick for those of you who haven't seen it. Let's run this. So I have the newest version of MoRPHED that you can see it with. Run the installer. And if you saw the last video, this will be a bit of a review. Let's just install that. Works pretty quick. And now I need to bring up my downloads. MoRPHED. This is version 1.0. And I'm going to run the MoRPHED GUI exe. Okay, so now I have the MoRPHED GUI up here. I'm just going to go back so we can follow these directions exactly here. So I've downloaded the sample data and put it in the folder I have, and I've launched the MoRPHED GUI. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is create a new project. Let's go back to our GUI, go File, New Project, go to the folder I have, C drive, in my test folder. I have this O1A test folder. So we're going to select that folder, and inside of here I have this tutorial data. We just want this top level folder. Okay, so I've got that there. This description button isn't implemented yet, but let's go to our inputs. It's the next step. So we want to click the inputs button. Let's find our DEM. So it's in here, tutorial data, DEM, and our input text file, which is this Feshio 304 hydro.txt. Now, the sediment import is the proportion of exported sediment. You can also specify an exact volume. We're just going to run with the proportion. And you see that graph updated automatically there when we opened it. Okay, so we have those loaded. Now MoRPHED parameters becomes active. Let's go on here. So these are the distributions for sediment deposition. We're going to give it a length of 210, a mean of 125, and a standard deviation of 40. Now, these correspond to the bar spacing on the river Feshi, which is the river we're modeling with the simulation. You can play around with these. They don't have to correspond to bar spacing. You can play around with them and see the different results you get. I'm going to do this for both of them. This path length distribution is for sediment that's eroded within the reach. This is for sediment that's imported into the reach, in case you want to have different distributions for them. The slope threshold put at 7, the shear threshold at 50, area at 30, scaling factor at 0.5, and grain size at 0.05. Now the slope threshold is the threshold all the cells in the bank is the slope all the cells in the bank have to be for it to experience erosion. The shear stress threshold is the shear stress that the bank has to experience to undergo erosion, and the area threshold is how big the bank has to be to undergo erosion. You can read about this more. It's more of the MoRPHED documentation. Now if I click Update Plots, it'll show me what these distributions look like. Here we have the proportion of sediment that's going to be deposited and the distance from the origin. So in the case of the imported sediment, this is the distance from the upstream boundary, and this is the distance from the cell where the erosion happened. Okay, now I'll go to del3D parameters. The path, C, del3D, the top level of my installation. So if I go in here, I have all these other folders. We only need this top level. Upstream boundaries on the south side. It's on the north side. Click OK, and we're good to go. Now I click Run, and the GUI is going to become unresponsive here, which is okay. See, not responding. That's fine. It means it's working. Just let it go. This is going to take a while. But if I go into the folder where I'm running this simulation, you can see now I have this inputs folder. My initial inputs are copied over with the DEM and input file I put in. Then I have flood 00. This is the initial hydraulics we're running. Del3D. You can see we've already have all these Del3D files. Now if I want to see any Del3D errors, this try diag file, I can open this with Notepad. When I pull it over here, you can see that there's a few stability problems with the simulation, and that's not really a big deal. Those can be fixed by adjusting some parameters in Delft, but it's not that big of a deal. And then the hydraulics, this is where we'll output the point files from Delft when it's finished running. And then here we have outputs, not populated yet because there's no outputs, and this temp file, which you can see we have all these DEMs and slopes and things we use to initialize Delft. And then we have this .morph file. This is the XML that the GUI generates. This is the input file for the actual model. This has all the parameters the model needs. And then if we go back here, we have this .display.morph. And you can see there's nothing in here yet. This is what the Morph viewer will use to display the PNGs of the layers that Morph produces, and that can be shown in the Morph viewer, and we'll show that later in the next video.